With that, let's speak with Andrew Drury, journalist and filmmaker, who's interviewed Begum previously. Andrew, good afternoon to you. I mean, you just mentioned those two words, Shamima Begum, and all manner of debates crop up, of course, and we're familiar with those well-trodden discussions. Just give us an insight, if you can. What is specifically happening over there at the moment, and what is the potential upshot for Begum?
Well, I've just heard today, Hull camp, which is the biggest camp which I visited, is now changed forces. Syria are control of that, and the SDF have moved out amongst fighting. I spoke to al-Roj camp, Hoda, who's Shamima's best friend in the camp, on Sunday via text message. So she sent me a message down. The camp is pretty much in lockdown, with threats to the SDF leaving the camp immediately. The YPG are in charge of the camp at the moment. So if it doesn't get hand over in a decent sort of way, Shamima would be free to leave that camp at any time now. I think all the time I've been going backwards and forwards to Syria and to this camp, it's the most precarious position that she's ever been. I think she could be out that camp within days or hours.
And does that much just mean she walks out and does her own thing? Is it that? Is it as simple as that?
Well, 120 ISIS fighters are free walking around Syria now from yesterday. The SDF left camp yesterday, which is Syrian Defence Forces, and 120 went free. The same could happen with Shamima, because it's not a real secure camp. They're living in tents. There's one fence, that gate gets left open, then she's out. And I already know that she'll probably head towards Turkey. And then who knows from there onwards.
Yeah. I mean, the whole citizenship, which has been central to her plight for the last few years, does she have alternative? The British government has said, no, you won't get citizenship. Whether this government changes its mind or whether a court is able to overturn previous decisions, I don't know. Maybe you can illuminate us on that one. But can she get it elsewhere? If she turned up in Turkey, could she apply for asylum in Turkey?
Yeah, no, she'll definitely apply for asylum in Turkey. And she can't go to Bangladesh because she'll get executed as being an ex-terrorist. I mean, that's why, I asked her this question, would you go back to Bangladesh? Because that's where her father was.
Yeah.
He had left the UK and gone there, and she said, no chance, they'd hang me. So the only option she had would be claim asylum in the UK. And that is her thought, and that's her mind, and the only thought she has is to come back to the UK.
And Turkey would be a kind of first stop to that journey, right? I mean,
Yeah.
politically as well as literally.
Yeah, for sure. But that's it. That's our only option, because it's such a short. Because where al-Roj camp is, the Turkish border's right on it. You could actually, with a few hours, you could get to the border, and that's where she would go. How would she be received in Turkey? I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, we've been trying to get our prisoners back over the last 2 years, apparently, and 2 are already back now that we don't know about. I've spoken recently about once I contacted the camp only about a month or 2 ago, and 2 notorious girls have been released just recently, and we've heard nothing in UK press or government. We've asked the government for a response about these 2 girls, but nothing back. So they're gradually coming back in any case.
How many so-called Brits are in those camps?
In al-Roj camp, I would say there's 12 that I know of. 3 that I've spoken to. So I'd say there's about 12, but the camp's split into 2. So you've got the less dangerous part of the camp, the girls that have been, they say they've been de-radicalised, and then there's a higher camp where the girls are more of a threat, which I'm not too sure how many girls, British girls there are in there. Yeah. But those 2 girls I was talking about that have been released were in that camp, the worst part of the camp.
Wow. So that would be of concern quite clearly. And
concerns
I guess...
me.
Sorry, do continue.
Yeah, it concerns me they've been released, because one girl was called a terror twin, and she's notoriously a bad girl, and God knows where she is now.
So these are troubling times in that region, and of course the ramifications for us here as well go without saying. Not to make light of this in any way, Andrew, but could Shamima Begum rock up in Calais and jump on one of those boats?
That would be her intention, yeah. I mean, it's not jokingly, that is her intention. That's what she will do. Not only that, I mean, not too sure about Shamima being much of a problem anyway. It's the other ISIS members that have left. We've got no control of our border. We don't know who's coming. I mean, they could be on their way to us now.
Yeah. We live in curious times. What is your sense that this government might... Are you getting any feeling that there is a change here? I mean, this government is sort of crammed with sizzling human rights lawyers who instinctively have big sympathies in these areas. Do you think that is likely to show its leg at some point?
Of course. I think if Shamima comes back, we won't know. Other girls that have gone back, we don't know about. I mean, Shamima could come back. We wouldn't even know she's here. I mean, I'm in constant. I mean, I've been speaking to her and her friends for the last 3 or 4 months, wanting things from me I can't discuss live on air.
Okay.
But there's things they're asking for.
And just clarify, if you could, Andrew, is she... I mean, yes, she joined a terror organisation. That in itself is not, that's not an insignificant part of your life CV. Is she suspected of other crimes?
Well, yeah, she was part of Hatish, which is the religious police. There's proof about the sewing suicide vests. And you got, I mean, she got her citizenship removed, not from joining ISIS, but I think Sajid Javid said at the time, if we knew what he knew, yes, nobody in this country would let them back in again. Yeah. So he's had evidence that we haven't seen yet. So God knows that what is. I know from the people that I've spoken to who would have been in and around her says that she carried out some atrocities.
Well, this story, I'm sure, is going to crop up again over the coming days if the direction of travel is, as you say, in those camps. Andrew, thank you for your time as ever. Really good to speak again. Andrew Drury, journalist and filmmaker who's spoken and interviewed Shamima Begum on a number of occasions. I was literally just about to ask about the Sajid Javid comment when he said, if you knew what I knew, you wouldn't have any sympathies in this area. That was a very unusual thing for a politician to say, a former Home Secretary. He speaks as a former Home Secretary, of course, and they're not really meant to kind of, although we know they must know some stuff, it's not something you generally offer up. But I think in frustration, Javid just said, look, I'm aware of the deeper concerns in this case, which is always the curious thing of having one of those roles, isn't it, in government? If you're the Home Secretary, the only person you can have that conversation with is another former Home Secretary, other you've got no one else to talk to about that. And then, even then, you're assuming they've had the same detail as you've had. 0344 499 1000. Back with your calls in just a second.